Hey guys, Dan here. Dan reviews it, and our quarantine video for today, Dead to Me Season 2. We've brought back special guest Melissa. Hello.
Hello again.
It's great to see you. And we just did Season 1 of Dead to Me last week, and then Season 2 went up, and we all just binged the heck out of it.
I know we forced you into it. I'm so sorry. I know how
No,
the binge, but
I mean, one of the reasons I don't binge is because I have so many shows to watch that I like to kind of mix and match this and that. But the other reason is because then once I'm done, it's done for like a year, sometimes more, and it makes me sad. But this is one of these shows where, I mean, I literally did this all in one sitting, about 5 hours and 20 minutes, and done. No regrets. I think this is such a great show.
you always need to sort of watch it all at once or in bursts. I think I did about 3 episodes ish at a time because you know me, I fall asleep early, and so it's typically I'm falling asleep partway through an episode and I have to finish it up the next morning. There's 10 episodes, so it took the week to get through, but not because I didn't want to be watching. I start things too late. But this is a great one if you want to binge something, for sure. This is a bingeable show. It's not something where you need to take a break.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we talked about this in Season 1, but it continues, I think, maybe even more in Season 2. Every episode almost has this jaw-dropping cliffhanger. And it's like, you really do want to keep watching to find out what's next. Like you said, it really seems like it's made for binging.
I was almost concerned at the end that they were wrapping things up, so we'll talk about that. But I didn't, and I don't want to say it's predictable. It's not predictable, but I kept I kept making little predictions and really being like, what if this, what if that, and sort of right before things would happen, I would catch up. I don't think they're smart people. They know that people are thinking these things, but I mean, it was every episode there was something like, wait, is this about to happen? And then it would, and it was pretty amazing. I really enjoyed this again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that about the season finale, because I thought the same thing. There was definitely a spot, and like you said, we'll get to it. There was definitely a spot where I thought, well, I feel like it's going to be so popular, but just wrap it here. What an amazing 2-season, 20-episode run for this show, and it would have ended perfectly.
Absolutely.
But of course
totally agree. I thought it was being wrapped up. I was like, okay, there it is. This is, I guess, a 2-seasoner. I'm happy with it. And then they went a whole nother way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they better be coming back for a 3rd season now. So we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
So jump in because we obviously want to talk about all the things.
Yes. So this is, when I do these season reviews of things, viewers of my channel hopefully should know this is spoiler territory. Usually when I do like my weekly TV reviews or movie reviews, I am very, very spoiler free. I want everybody to be able to, watch my reviews with no involvement, no spoilers. But when we're delving into something this deep and going episode by episode and really exploring the themes and whatnot, it's spoiler territory. So if you have not seen Dead to Me Season 2, go watch it before you're checking out this video here, unless you don't care about spoilers, but
it won't take you long.
yeah, really.
I kept thinking it was an hour-long show again. Was 2 nights ago or last night. Whatever night I texted you after I was like, oh, I'm done. I had said, oh, I don't think we should start. We're going to be up till like 1 in the morning. And he was like, it's a half-hour show. You'll be in bed by 11. I was like, oh, yeah, what am I doing? That's not.
It's because unlike almost any other show on TV or streaming, it packs so much into each episode. I mean, there is not a wasted moment in any of these. And in fact, I would argue that season 1, we kind of talked about that one episode that was like, not so hot. This season, I didn't feel like there was any of those. This was like, balls to the wall. Every episode was just start to finish powerhouse.
Absolutely. They packed in so much information. I'm sure as I get to each episode, I'll see if there were one or two where there was a bunch of dancing. I don't remember exactly. I kept being like, dancing again? Or like
that was the wedding. Yeah, that was the fake wedding. Well, it wasn't a fake wedding, but they went to a wedding, yeah.
And then I was just like, wait, we're dancing again? Is this another music montage? Like, is this filler? What happened? But I mean, it was quick. It was not a big deal.
And it all led somewhere.
It did.
Which because I thought the same thing. I was like, is this going to be the filler episode? But then all of the plot points led somewhere. So unlike the first season, we don't necessarily have to obviously recap our love for Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini.
Yeah,
we can just sort of
our characters
dive right in.
Are back. We introduced couple new people, but nothing.
Some of our favorites too.
Yes, I actually I did not know her, but I know you talked briefly last time about what was her name now?
Oh, well, I was actually referring to someone who gets visited in prison.
Oh,
I had no idea.
I did not know she was going to be in it, but that's a lot of.
Me neither.
Let's wait a second.
let's read that. Natalie Morales is the girl that I love.
Yes, that's who I was referring to.
Yes.
Playing Michelle. Yes, that's the name.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Beautiful job. I'm like, now I want to go back and watch all those things. I loved her. She's so great and everything, and they just need to find the right vehicle for her, and she can easily be on a 10-season show. She's certainly got the talent. But okay, so we're gonna dive right in. Season 2, episode 1. We basically waste no time going back to the storyline at the end of season 1. Of course, we have the murder of Steve. Jen and Judy get together and are sort of faced with this, oh my God, what have we done sort of thing. So season 2 is more, season 1 was more about finding out who killed Jen's husband to begin with. And, we learn a lot of things. They're keeping from her. But season 2 is more about how do we cover up Steve's death, the yarns that are unfurling to the police and to people's families and all of this. So we have, Jen is sort of wondering, oh my God, what did I do here? We welcome Judy back into our lives and, help me figure this out. And she tells Judy that, she did it out of self-defense, and she was fearing for her life when Steve came over. But then we find out that the security camera footage, we have that nosy neighbor of hers, Karen,
who is, I want to get and I want to get the actress's name, Susie Nakamura, and we've seen her in several things before. She was a little bit in season 1.
Sorry.
No, you're good. And she plays, I think, a little bit more into this season too, with the security footage and all. But basically, Jen doesn't want to leave her kids without a mom, so she's, very upset and, oh my God, what do we do? So let's see. What else happened? Do we meet Michelle in episode 1 already?
So episode 1, we introduce Flo and Michelle. Flo is going to live at the old folks home where Judy works, and Michelle is her daughter. And so Michelle's character is going to sort of be throughout the episode. She becomes a real friend for Judy, first as a friend. We'll talk more about that. Because she's lost Jen. We've got great one-liners. We have, the son's learning how to drive. Judy has nowhere to stay now because she can't stay at Steve's because he's dead.
Right. So she brings her back.
And she can't stay at Jen's. She didn't really have anywhere to live. So she, Abe from last season, she ends up taking his car. She's going to live in the car. Finally, Jen does let her come back, invites her to watch, Facts of Life. And then our twist at the end. But it's really just sort of setting up, what are all the characters going to be doing? Where is everybody in life right now? And who are our new people? The question, do you think that there's going to be a resurgence of interest in Facts of Life? I don't think a lot of teens are watching this show. I think they're all watching Outer Banks and other things on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I was wondering.
Yeah, probably not.
I keep bringing it back though, so.
I don't know what the fascination is. But they keep bringing it up. It was in the first season a little bit, basically, we reveal. The neighbor comes over and wants to. Oh, that pool looks so nice. Let's take a dip. Wants to wind it back, and we see Steve's body is not in there. So us, the audience, oh my God, where's Steve? And then at the end of the episode, knock at the door, and it is
James
what
Marsden.
Looks like Steve. Oh my God, it's James Marsden back again. He wasn't in the pool. He's standing at their door alive. What the hell is going on? Credits. So what a great first episode. Getting us back to
great, nice twist at the end.
Yep.
I don't know how to make this stop.
What is that? The doorbell?
No, people are trying to text me, and I'm trying to get to stop doing that. I apologize.
Yeah, how awful. But yes, this finale to the pilot episode or the premiere episode of the season was great, jaw dropping. And like I said, a lot of the episodes in this season have these jaw dropping cliffhangers, which is why this show is perfect for the binging. So yeah, I thought this was a great way to start the season. And you're right, it was more establishing everything, establishing that Jen and Judy are back in the thick of things, because yes, she called her over at the end of season 1 to show her that Steve has died, but where do they go from here? Now we sort of find out.
It sounds like a dismissal. She sounds like she doesn't want her in her life. There's a whole line, whatever it was. We've got this cleaning, crying montage with the happy music juxtaposition. So you really do think, okay, this is it. I guess that was, help me and now bye. And it seemed like it was going to be taking a little longer, maybe, to get back to being friends. But I'm glad they didn't waste a lot of time with that. The two of them being together is where the show succeeds the best. I think it really shines when the two of them are doing scenes together and are in a good place together, rather than fighting with each other.
Absolutely. These are two actresses at really, I think this show is, maybe the pinnacle for both. They're both in top form here, and the writing is so good. They're right. We want to see them together, because even though Judy is a complete, again and again, even several people saying she just, what's the analogy she uses? Something about a stream or something. I forget. She's a riptide or something like that, or current,
rip current, or
rip current, yeah, something like that. So the detective Ana Perez, keeps kind of saying those types of things, and as the audience, you're like, yeah, she's not wrong. Everything seems to happen, but the more we go, the more we learn about Judy's background and about her and Steve's background. I think she becomes a much more sympathetic character. This season was kind of all about her sort of redeeming herself in terms of being a truly good person that is just getting caught up in bad things.
Well, and we really see, I know I said last season about all the crazy and, which woman is really the more stable person here, and just some of the choices that Jen's making. We find out I don't know what episodes and I don't know where they're marked. We find out that really it isn't self-defense eventually. We find out that it wasn't the gun that she used that we all assumed. We find out
right.
that the first episode, she didn't shoot him. She hits him on the head with that bird carving. And, that's pretty grim and vicious way to go out there. I mean,
yeah.
Not that I think killing someone would be easy I don't think it would be easy in any situation, but just the way it sort of happens, you're like, oh, is Jen really, like, Judy may have the upper hand here in, sort of that whole kindness and being that more sympathetic person.
Right.
That's really all I've got for the first episode. I think we get a lot more information in episode 2.
Yeah, so in episode 2, which is called, episode 1 was called You Know What You Did. Episode 2 is Where Have You Been? And so here we learn that this is not, in fact, Steve. It is not.
As they opened, I said, oh my gosh, he has a twin. He was alive.
Yes. So it is not, he is alive. It is his twin brother, Ben. And so, first of all, I love James Marsden. I was lamenting, as you know, at the end of season 1 that no more James Marsden. And this series did a great job of keeping it under wraps because he was not on any of the cast lists that I saw for season 2. So, and I thought even if he was, I would have probably thought, oh, they must have him in flashbacks or something.
Yeah.
But
I love this character so much more. I mean, I like James Marsden, so I don't want him to be the sort of nasty, like, backhanded, money laundering, sleazy guy that he turned out to be in the first season. With Ben, you've got sort of the opposite going on. He's a little pathetic and a little dorky, and I like that.
Yeah.
I wish
he might be a little dumb too.
He's a chiropractor. He's not that dumb. He's
all right. Maybe common sense wise dumb.
Oh yeah, no, he's not. His choices again. He makes a lot of questionable choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't stand his hair. I really wish they made him better looking.
Okay.
I'm real mad about that. I'm like, you bring James Marsden back and give him this stupid looking hair, but maybe I'm in the minority on that. People
I mean, the hair didn't necessarily bother me, but so basically what happens in this episode is the reason he is in town to begin with is because the FBI has contacted him and his mother, who we meet later in the season, about the whole money laundering thing that came about in season 1 from Judy. And basically Judy and Jen are like together and like, okay, we can't let this guy into our lives. Like, we need to not do that. But of course, Judy does her own thing as always and mentions that, oh yeah, I think Steve said he would go to Mexico at some point. So maybe he escaped to Mexico.
Tell Judy about, how did Judy not tell Jen about the money laundering? I did not understand that. She had so many reasons to make Steve the bad guy and to get on Jen's good side. That seemed just not plausible to me. I was mad about that choice.
Okay, but by that point in time, I mean, when she went to the FBI in season 1, Jen had already confessed to Jen what she did, I believe, or maybe she didn't, but she was about to. Jen had, put out the restraining order on her. Things weren't really good between them at the time, and Judy, she's well-meaning, but God, is she absent-minded when it comes to details of things. And maybe she just didn't even think. I mean, she never even told her that Steve had a twin brother.
Oh, so also, what the heck is semi-identical that they went on and on about? That's not a
they're thing. Just being
There's
stupid.
Identical, egg splits, fraternal, 2 eggs. There's no semi-identical.
Yes, I know.
It basically sounds like they were conjoined at that point. It was just, I was mad about that. I have a lot of like angry exclamation points going on.
You have to keep in mind that through all of the goings on and the action and the drama, this is still technically a comedy, so they've got to throw in some comedic things. And I think that's part of Ben's like sort of dumb, like, yes, he's a chiropractor, but he's obviously street smart, maybe not so much, socially not so much. So maybe he really believes that he's a semi-identical twin or something. But anyway, so what else happens in this episode?
We have
I think that's it.
We have the criminal defense attorney, brother, partner of Jen's ex realty partner. We have people getting puppies because the dog is going to be
right. Oh yeah, this is when they went to the church.
You know, we've got. We had some great lines. Jesus never took a day off. Well, that worked out well for him, didn't it? Our cop friend is back, which was pretty
yes, we love him.
Dad Bird seems to be missing, and at the very end we have where Steve goes. We've been talking about where Judy goes, chaos follows. It really seems more like where Steve goes, chaos follows, and I think that's the line they say, and I'm like, yes, this is not.
I would agree.
Judy. And then you've got your twist at the end, which where have you been? So where is Steve?
Yes. So it's Nick, right? Is the police officer that returns in this episode. And yeah, you had mentioned in season 1 that you were hoping he would be here more, and that her Jen's former real estate associate would be here more. And so we have both of them back in season 2, which is wonderful. Is obviously they have given him permission to rejoin the force and put him basically on this case to find out what's going on.
Town that's just the smallest town you've ever seen. The fact that he's on the retreat and then on the same case, and then we've got the same church. It turns out we'll find out later that Ben was a holy harmonizer.
Long time ago.
It's so like it's the very smallest town you've ever seen for California.
Yes, I agree. And I'm sure that's very convenient for the writers that they created that. But yeah, and what's the is this where we see the freezer?
This is
at the very end. Is that's the cliffhanger?
Steve is in the freezer, and I said,
okay.
We had been talking about this show being sort of like some of the other shows, like Weeds and Good. I was like, I feel like it's Good Girls all over again. Bodies in the freezer. Not that I'm giving away too much there because there's so many different things that happen in that show, but I'm like, wow. I guess there's only so many places to hide a dead body. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point in time, a lot of these shows have had these sort of themes and. In fact, we'll talk a little bit later about.
But
yeah, I mean, it might be in episode 3 that they talk about, dissolving the body in some sort of acid, and that, of course, reminds me immediately of like Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a good episode. What do you think about the whole twin thing, other than the semi-identical, gag?
I love that we bring back James Marsden. You don't need another actor. Steve is dead.
Me too.
I love getting to see the juxtaposition between what is Steve like and what is Ben like. We're going to see that the mother later on is played by Frances Conroy, and she doesn't just play the best creepy mother or just I haven't even seen I've only seen probably 5 episodes of 6 Feet Under. But I mean, you've got 6 Feet Under. You've got all the different characters she does for American Horror Story. So we're going to see a lot.
Okay.
I mean, she's just
your favorite show.
That edge to her, and I think that having them be twins is really sort of important for that, because we're also seeing a lot of all these characters are a lot of how they were raised and how they grew up. And that's very important. We're going to see that with Judy. I know we talked about going to the jail later on. All of that's really important. And I think that having a twin and having them be so different was smart. I think it was really interesting and smart choice.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I mean, this season is all about, like, season 1 was great. They could have ended it, not on a cliffhanger if they wanted to, whatever. But we get such a fuller picture of at least 3 of these characters. Maybe not so much Jen, but Judy, we get such a vast picture of her background. And then also, I mean, I guess we get a little bit of Jen because we do find out a little more about, her mother passing. I know that she had touched on that in the first season. We get more of that. And then, yeah, just bringing Frances Conroy in a little later in the season to really explore the differences between Steve and Ben, I think opened things up even more. And then we also get background as the season progresses about the female detective.
Well, and I really think that her character has been well developed this season, and I like that we're seeing a lot more about who she is. Actually, this episode I forgot to mention, we bring back what's his name? What's Jen's husband's name?
Steve. No. Jen's husband. Ted.
Bring Ted's mom back, Lorna. Real estate mogul. She's on the cover of Over Asking magazine.
Yes,
He's
that's a good gag.
To calm down. I mean, yes. I think getting to see his, backstory a little bit, and we find out that she's part owner in the house. I think that it comes back to sort of how you were raised, and I think that's a really interesting thing to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so episode 3 rather is called "You Can't Live Like This," and I want to point out, by the way, and I don't know if we talked about this in season 1 or not, but the directors of this show go 2 episodes at a time. So every 2 episodes are directed by a different person, but it kind of gives that continuous sort of feel. Says it's not just 10 different people directing all 10 of the episodes. So you really do get, the same sort of vibe, and it flows, I think, a lot better than some shows in that regard.
Absolutely. I had noticed that we only have a sort of a group of writers, group of directors. We've had a lot of, I can't remember if they're all women or mostly women working on this show. And I think all of that brings it to be a really cohesive piece, instead of some things that have such a different feel. One of the podcasts I'm listening to right now is Office Ladies, and you can really see a huge difference as we cycle through the different writers and the different directors and everybody's style. And I think that it's helpful when you've got a shorter piece to work with to be able to, it's almost like they're writing an hour-long piece and splitting it into 2.
Yeah. And it looks like, with just a few exceptions, it is all women on the writing and directing staff. So that is an interesting note as well, since it is such a, it's a female empowerment show for sure. Much like Good Girls and Weeds and some of those shows we keep bringing up. But that certainly doesn't mean it's a classically feminine show. I mean, we're not watching Designing Women here.
I don't think there's any, I don't think this is a show where it's, written for women kind of thing, or, chick,
right.
A rom-com and some of that other, it's not that kind of thing at all. My husband was super excited to watch this. Good Girls is one of his favorite shows. So, I think when you have smart writers, and honestly, I think, some of those other things are not even written, they're written by men for women. And so maybe that's why they seem a little bit more like dribbled, while this seems smart. It's not to, say that men can't write for women, but sometimes they're not necessarily thinking that, hey, women want this kind of thing too.
Yeah. I feel like Grace and Frankie is also mostly written and produced and directed by women.
I'd have to look that one up. I mean, but I've not paid attention to the writing and directing so much. So my question to you for episode 3, because I know you don't like scary things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So let's get to the recap on season 3 then. Since we have established the freezer at the end of episode 2, so Jen rather is having a lot of issues sleeping, and is hearing this noise coming from the garage, or it is Judy rather, not Jen, and she is sort of getting to this point of like really starting to feel bad for Steve, and maybe things didn't have to be like this, and so she starts going on and on to Jen about, we need to figure out what to do, and we can't just leave this person here.
Honor his body and his, like, she doesn't.
Yeah, you gotta honor him.
Want him to just be okay. We need to dispose of this quick, and she wants to treat him with respect, because again, she was his fiance, and he did at some points treat her nicely, and she was in love with him. It's more, she wants to treat him with more respect. Whereas we do find out I think it's in this episode, that Jen was really wasn't self-defense at this point. He was walking away. I think this is the episode where we see that. I have the question, why did Jen choose to kill him, in my little notes for this one. And it's mostly the things he's saying to her that it seems to trigger her. And I think that we're going to see more of that, even probably next season, possibly, about why that would, I don't know.
And is this also the episode, we're not quite done with the synopsis, but is this also the episode where we are at the police station and Judy has the voice messages played for the detective? Or is that in a later episode?
That might be a little longer. I have here that...
Boy, that was startling.
I have that we start out with, we're dealing mostly with the freezer, and that jump scare. Did you jump? That was my question to you. I almost fell off the couch. We think maybe he's alive in the freezer. He's not alive in the freezer. We have rats.
Yes. We have rats, and they're all scurrying out. And we find out why. It's because, rats are, can sort of smell blood and all of this. And so they're, probably attached to the freezer from that way. And then also in this episode, because we're so concerned about the freezer and what we're going to do, Judy goes in there, or Jen rather, goes in there to try and figure out what to do. She's got the oven mitts on. And then her kid comes in with that creepy girl.
Shandy's back. I do.
Shandy's back.
A little less creepy than before at first.
Yeah, I was going to say, she definitely gets more creepy as the season goes on. But, so they almost see the dead body in there. Jen, freaks out on them. And which is, she's obviously got a lot of emotional baggage and issues. But even that sort of took her by surprise, that she was yelling at her son like that, at least the youngest one.
And this is where they are.
So this is, where she goes.
We're going to hold on to this body for 7 years, and then the power goes out. Well, now the freezer is going to do you.
Right. So she goes to the store to try and figure out what to do, and this is, the sort of Breaking Bad parallels that we discussed a little bit ago.
That was a cute scene in the store. Very funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
I was worried she was dissolving him in the bathtub. Luckily, again, it's just the rats. Don't worry.
We learned that it's actually a rat. But Jen tells her at that point, like, look, I've decided whatever you want to do is okay with me, unless it's this. But Shandy tells them about this forest, this weird forest that she knows about. Shandy is such a creepy girl. And so they've thought, okay, well, maybe with the power out, we can go ahead and do this. And then before we get to the whole wrap up of the episode, this is also the episode where Judy and Michelle really start getting a little closer. They are smoking weed in the car together and sort of, you know, talking about some emotional things and about life and all of that kind of stuff.
I like this part of the show, except for this is where I fell asleep. It went on just a little long for me. You know, I think because there's just so much action happening. Otherwise, it was the last show I was watching that night. And when we got to the part where we were in the car, I did drift off. But
yeah, because that's sort of at the end of the episode, or towards it.
Yeah, it's sort of like maybe 3/4 through. A lot of interesting stuff has already happened. Have we already driven the body out into the forest at this point, or is it the very end?
I think that might be at the end of this episode. But next episode is when they're out of town, so I don't remember exactly when they dump it.
I think they must be doing it at the end, because I'm looking at my notes and it says lost phone bit, which
okay, fair enough.
So that must have been the end. Yeah, so I like that okay, who is this Michelle? What is she going to be to Judy? And I think it's going to be interesting. You know, where as we go on, but we don't get to see too much yet. We're just sort of planting some seeds.
Right. So, and to answer your question, I didn't necessarily get too freaked out about the rats and all that stuff. That was okay. In fact, that actually is sort of my biggest complaint about the season as a whole, and really maybe my only complaint. I don't know, but that a lot of the things they do are very sort of, I don't know if obvious is the right word, but like sort of classic, like, oh, you think it's this, but it's obviously he's not alive. Like, it's not a zombie show. So, you know, having it be rats is like kind of obvious. And we see this again in the finale, so I can bring it up then too. But there's a few spots in this season where it's like very sort of, I don't know. It's not lazy writing. I don't think. It's just been there, done that kind of stuff with a lot of these.
I think that was what I was saying, where I'm like, oh, it's like, is this going to happen? Oh yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Right. Like you with the twin. I mean, you knew it was a twin immediately.
Yeah, when she lost her phone and it ended up being in her pocket. Oh, here it is.
Right.
I was like, is it in the grave? It's not really in the grave. It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's in her pocket. So
actually,
I can't decide if it's maybe the comedy writing's a little bit, like, they have great lines, but it's sort of the situational comedy. It's not tired. It's just not fresh. Okay, because everything else around it is fresh. So
that's kind of how I feel about it. Right. And so since you brought up the whole phone thing, let's talk about episode 4, because I think I can describe a little more what I mean with that. So it's called Between You and Me. And basically the part with the phone that you were mentioning. Right. So in this episode, she loses the phone right after they had buried the body. And she's like, oh my God, if I lost the phone inside the grave, like, what are we going to do? Whatever. Finds the phone, picks it up to show her, oh, here it is. And then they get pulled over by the cop. And then the music swells and the cop's like, you committed a crime, and us as the audience are supposed to be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're really on edge. But then he's like, oh no, I'm just kidding. It was your phone. You can't have your phone out. I'm going to give you a ticket. That's like,
I was shocked that's what it was. I thought it was going to be something else. Like, you were speeding. You ran that stoplight.
I thought she missed the stop
sign. I didn't think it was going to be the phone in her hand, because she didn't even use the phone. She was literally just holding it.
Right.
Like, really? But I don't know California, so maybe that's a thing.
But I just thought that was a very like classic sort of almost like soap opera-esque. Like, that's the kind of thing I feel like you would see more on like The Housewives or Riverdale, or something where it's like the writing maybe isn't as sharp as I expect the Dead to Me writing to be. So that's sort of goes along with that. But anyway, so what happens in episode 4 is, like we said, they bury the body here, I guess, at the end of episode 3. And then
this
we've
is
got
the
the
one
phone
where they're on
thing.
vacation more. So it's like
Yes.
it's like last time with the retreat. We've gone away.
Yeah.
But we're not
This is the road episode.
Are on our way back from this.
They stop at a diner to have some pie and sort of talk about, what they've done. And then they check into a hotel and then see the neighbor's husband is having an affair with someone. Because, of course, they're freaking out as soon as he opens the door. And they're like, oh, my God, he's going to know that we were here. But then once we find out he's having an affair, they're like, oh, okay, well, we're good because he clearly won't say anything, because he's doing his own dirty deeds, I guess.
Did you think that Jeff was going to be closeted, or did you think he was having an affair with a woman at first? Because I knew he was cheating. I was like, oh, he's totally cheating. But I didn't.
Yeah.
You knew it right away.
No, I totally didn't know about that, but I just knew he was cheating. Yeah, that seemed pretty obvious. But I didn't know.
Have a very large percentage of I guess what would you call it? Non-heterosexual. Cause we've got people who because we are going to find out we've got some bisexual characters. I think it's I don't want to say unrealistic representation, but I like seeing the representation of more people that you're going to be seeing. We're in California. I mean, it's not completely, out there. The whole realm of TV is very, one-sided typically. So even though this maybe is a little more percentage-wise than you typically see in one show, I'm all for it. I'm liking all the things they're doing. It all makes sense. I loved the little comment with the guy getting the dog, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're the typical lesbian couple." I was like, I just said that.
That's great. Yeah.
Together. These are cute. They've got some cute things going on, and we've said the writer is a lesbian woman.
Right. Yeah.
Show. So.
And we also this will, I guess, come up more in subsequent episodes, but I think for Judy's character, it absolutely makes sense that she would fall for Michelle because, she's never really had a great relationship with a man. Her relationship with Steve was awful. And, here we're burying him and sort of bringing up all these emotions and stuff. So it made sense to me as well that she at first was like, well, I'm straight, but that's cool that you're not. Like, I don't care, whatever. And then, we see what happens when they end up in a relationship. But that to me totally made sense.
And Jen even brings it up. Judy is in love with love. It's going to be
right.
Love anybody who's going to give her attention and love. It doesn't matter. And right. I think that kind of became obvious to us. They sort of hint at it in that scene in the car, and you're just kind of like, is that what's going on here? Oh, that is what's going on here.
Right.
So I mean, but I even have in these in this episode, especially, I said I love the reality of the dialogue. There was a line, TripAdvisor gives it almost 3 stars. I don't know why you would print that. I'm like, I would totally say that. I can see you saying that. Like, yeah, it's a great line. People say.
Yeah, it's very realistic. And so they are at this like sort of wedding reception thing that they're not part of, but they pretend they are to be at the bar. But basically they decide to sort of toast Steve and give him a proper send-off to sort of make Judy happy. And Jen's obviously got some interesting feelings regarding killing him. As we learned, it wasn't really in self-defense, so it makes sense. And then they also have a burial
dance montage.
This is the dance montage. Yeah.
Do they need filler? How do they have a change of clothes for the bar? We've got,
that's interesting.
There's a line, you're the nice one and I don't want to use bad language here, but they say it in the show.
Oh, right.
Say it?
No, don't say it.
Okay. And you're the And you're the crappy one is basically what she's saying. And I was like, wait a second, it's like Two Broke Girls all over again. The creator of that show is the creator of this show. So I was like, oh, we've got the two girls again with the two personalities. She asks her to be her person at one point. I'm like, okay, now we've got the Grey's Anatomy lines.
Right.
What else? I love just when it gets real in the bar. Anytime that I think it's all throughout the seasons. Just something gets real, and then they have this great comedic moment, and I just bust out laughing. And I love that sort of, I don't know where my emotions are at any one moment.
Yeah. Well, this is the episode, speaking of emotions, this is the episode where they have the burial for the bird. And that's, pretty emotional. See, we do learn in this episode that Shandy was actually the one who killed the bird. But Jen decides not to reveal that to Henry because they're best friends and, she doesn't want to take that away from them. And then this is also at the end of the episode, or maybe it's even before that, where Charlie thinks that the car, Steve's old car, is a gift that his mom has given him. Why would this idiot think that? Because he is a greedy teenager that just, is
They're all
hopeful that. Yep, very self-centered. So.
I think it's one of those things where everyone has to sort of find something at the end of this episode. You've got the Shandy bird murder confession. You've got the sending back of the petrified wood rock. Henry finds the carved bird murder weapon. And then just when you don't think there's any more stuff that can happen, you have Charlie finding Steve's Mercedes in storage. Why he was even there, I don't really get. I'm not sure. Maybe I forgot.
I wasn't sure either about that.
But it was just that's where it's going. This is nothing but bad news. My only complaint with the kids are great actors. My only complaint right now is the show has to take place in such a short time period, and the kids are aging pretty fast. Henry is all right with the age, but Shandy, I was like, whoa, Shandy got old quick, and girls do at that age more than guys do. So,
yes, that is true.
When she calls to be like, are you guys okay? And Shandy is still there, and they're dancing to Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh my God! Yes,
I love Christopher dancing in the background. I was like, "This is so perfect." I'm dying.
Yeah, that was so great. All right, so episode 5 is called "The Price You Pay," and there's a bunch going on here. This is the episode where Jen basically tells I think Judy everything that Steve said to her before the death. I think this is where she really comes clean about everything, or maybe that's later. I don't know. Maybe this is the one where she's just having a lot of flashbacks to what happened.
So I have that her card gets declined at the store.
Well, yes.
You knew that was going to happen, right? That was another one of those. Oh yeah. This is the one where they're codependent, and she says she's codependent and she needs space. We can't find the paintings. I was trying to figure out how much time had gone by. Let's see. Judy giving way too many details about things.
Yes,
we have Jen having to wear the back brace because she's hurt her back digging that hole.
Yeah.
Good thing Ben's a chiropractor.
I was going to say, Ben to the rescue for that one. And then, and then we've also got Judy and Ben going to the old art studio, which is soon to be an Arby's now, which I thought was funny. But, she's talking about losing her paintings, and oh my God, I really need those paintings back, which comes into play later. And then Ben reveals, oh, you know what? You were right on the money about the whole Mexico thing. The FBI has footage of my brother, crossing the border in a truck. So maybe we need to figure that out. And so we also see a Judy bonding a little more with Michelle in this episode.
Oh, I love the whole she's a chef and has the restaurant, and
I love that.
A little scene with Chef Jason, and just I was like, she's absolutely coming on. Like, they haven't actually said anything yet. They haven't, but I'm like, she's coming on to her. I know that's where this is going. If this isn't where this is going, then who's writing this?
Right.
And it's just adorable. You know me, I love anything having to do with food, and so it's so cute.
Yeah.
And I love her. Her restaurant's gorgeous, and I loved it.
Well, and like you said, this is also the episode where, so, while she's getting closer to Michelle, Jen and Ben are getting closer together with the whole back brace thing.
He gives her an adjustment, which that's pretty interesting to watch. I don't remember why I wrote this. Maybe you Maybe you know what I mean by what I wrote here. Heart defect, not a metaphor. He has a heart defect.
Yes.
Because that's why he can't take off his shirt in swimming photos, and that's why he's the weakling, not so great brother. Got it.
Which also, did you think about her paintings when he said that? With all the hearts missing?
Didn't. Oh my God. I love that.
So I think that was sort of all in a play with that. But then with the whole car thing that we learned at the end of last episode with Charlie, the eldest son, here is where, he's taken all the pictures with his buddy Parker, this freaking girl that I cannot stand. A minor influencer. And so Charlie runs out of gas and calls his mom. So she shows up, and we see the dousing of the car at the end of the episode.
And you knew that was going to happen. I've got right here. Is Jen going to torch Steve's car? Yes. The answer is yes. That is what's happening. And I say, is Jen making more rash decisions than Judy? And I'm going through all of these things in my mind. Is this going to be, something with the Greek mafia they're going to be able to play this off as? Are they going to be able to, what's their best plan here? And you know what as soon as she walked away, I said, you know what? She didn't try to scratch off the VIN number before she left. That's going to come back to bite her. And sure enough, it did. Watch way too much crime TV, apparently.
Yes. And so that leads us into episode 6 called You Don't Have To, which is right. We see, for one thing, the cops show up and say, hey, or I guess Ben actually shows up and says, oh, they found Steve's burned out, husk of a car, and they're going to figure out with the VIN number and everything. That's how they know it's his, and this and that. But then we also find out in this episode that this dumb Parker girl, this micro influencer, has posted pictures of her and Charlie all over the place with the car, and that obviously would connect Charlie immediately to some sort of crime. The plate was very visible. So Jen goes over to this gal's house and tries to bribe her with cookies and a very, very small amount of cash.
We end up writing a check. I love how she's like, what are you drawing?
Right. Are you drawing something?
I'm writing you a check, you stupid child. I was so mad.
Now, I do admit, though, did you believe that Jen wouldn't know what Venmo was, having 2 teenage boys?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know, because you've got their all right, the one child is in elementary school or maybe middle school at the very oldest. The other one's in high school. Does he have access to his own bank account? Probably not. So the whole Venmo thing, I thought that was fairly realistic. I will say I'm pretty behind the times, and I didn't know what it was until maybe a year ago. This is now taking place at least a year ago.
I suppose that's true, because it's all in sort of not real time, but yeah, it's all one after the other. They didn't wait a year between the seasons. Only we did. You're right. So I guess this all takes place in probably 2018 or something.
New.
Okay.
I thought, and she, you know, she's in the real estate world. It was just her and Christopher. It's not like she had lots of friends at all.
Right.
I saw it as realistic, but not necessarily like, I mean, but the whole like, okay, we don't know what I thought it was worse that the kid didn't know what a check was, honestly. I thought that was a little more ridiculous for a high school age child not to know what a check is. Like,
yeah, that might be. All right. So here is the episode where we have the voicemail. So Judy goes to visit Detective Perez because of all this, you know, stuff going on. They may have found a body. Turns out to be not Steve. It turned out to be a female, but I don't know if that is revealed in this episode or the next one. But anyway, she tells Judy, look, you were the last person to have contact with Steve. He called you, I forget what number she said, but, you know, a dozen or 24 times or whatever, and left you these voicemails. You know, do you want me to play these voicemails, or do you want me to get a, you know, warrant, whatever? So they play them, and it is just this horrible, horrible verbal abuse from Steve over and over again.
And it's the same kind of thing he was doing to Jen right before he killed.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that that's just the difference between Judy sits there and takes it, and Jen is not going to take it, and that's what you see in the difference with them. And it really is. It's just inexcusable. I know they weren't together, and he's got this high stress situation, but you know, he's leaving evidence all over the place. It's almost like he was a little bit stupid to begin with.
Yes, yeah, all over the map. And so this is where everybody meets up at the Holy Harmonies thing, and they end up not even doing it. They end up going to the arcade and doing Dance Dance Revolution and all of that kind of stuff. A little bit
montagey to me, but I liked that we were getting to see Michelle interact. I wrote Michelle has nice energy in this part because she goes along with them. And we've got everybody sort of at the arcade.
Well, I think though I agree that it's a little montagey, but I think we needed a good Jen is a good mother scene.
Okay.
I think we needed her to accept that Henry didn't want to do the Holy Harmonies thing, and so okay, well, you know what? I am not mad at you for that. You know, he was afraid to tell her. What do you want to do? Let's go to the arcade, and they have a good family night together, which have we ever seen it? I mean, they had the birthday party, but it was like Ted's mom kind of ruined that, and then the cops came and arrested Judy. I mean, like, that wasn't really a good party.
Yeah, every time we've seen them at family dinner, it's always stressful and forced and kind of depressing.
So I kind of think we needed that.
I think it was definitely. I didn't make a note that it was montagey at all. Like, I didn't make. It wasn't something that came out at me while I was watching. I was, you know, riveted, I guess, enough to be happy watching that. How about
the cliffhangers at the end of the episode?
So I wrote before anything happened.
Okay.
Go ahead, fill in the summary up to the twist.
Well, so two things happen at the end of this episode. So I guess this is not actually the episode where they figure out it's Steve's old car, because at the end of the episode we see good old Nick back on the force, and he is looking at the car, which is, you know, teeming with cops at that point. But then we also see Michelle and Judy have decided to really make this some sort of official thing, and they go home together. And we've heard about Michelle's roommate, her ex that she still happens to live with, and we, of course, know.
Before we find anything else, my note is roommate has to be the lady cop. I couldn't remember. That is my note at the end of the episode.
Well, and you sure called that. Detective Perez comes home, and we see her, lady cop, as she's known by some. And There you go. So that's the big cliffhanger at the end of this episode. So yeah, what are your episode 6 thoughts?
This one I had very little written about. I really just gave myself, I mean, it was mostly synopsis, you know.
Okay.
It was not a lot of, you know, again with this church, Nick at the beach. I mean, I mostly it was me fangirling on Michelle and really liking her and liking her, and just being like, oh yeah, I can see this. I'd go home with her. This is not something that,
yeah.
you know, I mean, in episode 7, my first note is we know she commits fast, but darn it, like
that's very fast.
But wow, but I mean, that's Judy's MO. Judy's moving in with Jen after, you know, grief group, so it's not
right.
Judy has no boundaries, and so I'm not shocked. But yeah, no, 6, I didn't have a whole lot of, I think it was a lot of giving us information to set up the next piece of everything. There was, we needed to put a bunch of things in place for the next episode to happen.
Yes. And the next episode is called If You Only Knew. And so this is where we meet Francis Conroy for one thing, because we have this vigil for Steve. They finally figured out, you know, look, he's dead. We're not gonna, you know, play around any longer. And the two ladies decide we need to throw ourselves right into throw the cops off the scent, which produced one of my favorite lines of the whole season, which is just the exchange between Christina Applegate and the detective at the end, you know, where she's like, oh, you know, what are you doing here? Well, I'm working. You know, you'd be surprised how often the people that did it come to things like this.
I knew. I mean, I watch a lot of Law and Order, and I was like, the people always show up at the funeral. Judy showed up at the darn funeral for Steve, or for Ted.
Right.
They all show up. They
right.
have to see what's going on. They can't help it. So
it's a classic.
They were throwing him off the scent, but I was like, I mean, you're pretty much just, you know, confessing right there.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of the episodes is, you know, surrounding the vigil and that sort of thing. But at the end of that, Ben, what, I'm sorry?
Well, there's the breaking up with Michelle.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, so there's relationship things at the end of the vigil. A very drunk Ben makes out with Jen on the beach.
Yep. Ben kissing Jen. We saw it coming, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And then, we see in the beginning of the next morning, Judy is in the kitchen and realizes, oh my God, this is Detective Perez is the ex. And, you know, so that all sort of. She
does do the breakup. I mean, she's like, I'm going to do it. And yeah, we can't do this. And I was surprised that she had enough, you know, usually she clings on to these people, and I was surprised. We've got Steve.
How about though
girlfriend?
Oh, that's right. Yep, Steve's girlfriend comes back, and we remember her from season 1. And Judy at this vigil really sort of became a force to be reckoned with. She really, you know, she went up to the mistress or whatever, you know, was talking to her about, oh yeah, like I'm pregnant with Steve's baby or whatever. And then Detective Perez is like, you know, I'm watching you, da 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 da. And Judy really like claps back at her. I thought very well. I thought that whole scene was great.
Oh yeah, you got you're questioning. Is she jealous because it turns out that the girlfriend is pregnant. Steve's girlfriend's pregnant with his kid. Is she jealous? We're kind of like, what's going on here? Perez gives the warning. She blows up and melts down all in one scene, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then turns it into a bit of comedy, saying, I have to go pick up these papers because I don't want Steele to choke on it. It was a roller coaster of emotion.
Proving again how good at her core Judy really is, because that wasn't a play to get sympathy from Detective Perez. That really is her. That's
her personality.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have to take care of this. And then in the background, you have the video montage. And while I'm watching this, before they do it, I say, oh my gosh, they're doing a video montage of Steve's life. The car is going to be in that video. And there it was.
Yeah, and there it was, of course. Once Parker finally took down the pictures, then now it is in the visual montage. And we talked very, very briefly about Frances Conroy. But yes, what a gift to this show, because she's perfectly cast for this sort of, villainous mother part, and, doting all over Steve and Ben, sort of black sheep of the family. Just great. And not really ever liking Judy, and then Jen has to sort of, facilitate that whole thing. Very well cast.
We also see the chief of police, who we kind of realize is
part of the Greek mafia,
money laundering situation, one of the Greek mafia. And so I think, this is one of the, we kind of know, but we're not really sure yet. But it was one of those things where I was having a tough time putting it together, because this is one I did watch in 2 parts. This is where I fell asleep the second night through. So
okay.
After seeing this, I then 8 through 10 is my last bit of watching.
And this was the first part this is the first episode where we had seen him, right? Captain Hastings?
Or
maybe he showed up.
Him on the phone, maybe even season 1, because we'd seen some different things. I don't know if we've actually seen him or just sort of in the background, what's going on. I can't remember, and then I think that was why I was a little confused. At one point, I thought it was the father, and then like Frances Conroy's husband. And I was like, "What's going on?" Oh no, wait, that's not who this is. It took me a second. Happens at the end of the night. I'm like, wait, who is this person?
Right.
He gets officially introduced here to us, but we also know, okay, police and Judy knows him from these other things. What's going on?
Right. So it makes sense. So, okay. So episode 8 is It Had to Be You. And this is a very Charlie centric episode.
Yes.
We've gotten, a lot in these last few episodes about Charlie and the car and all of this. But here we have him discovering this stuff in the garage, because there's a message, "I know what you did," painted on the garage. And we, as the audience, of course, think, oh my God, this is somebody that got a hold of the security camera footage or, whatever. And so she goes over to the neighbor's house with the
Karen and Jeff,
gay man, and Karen, and so she looks through the footage, and it turns out it's the dumb old Parker that was doing it to Charlie.
Girl. Well, and that was it was one of those things where I was like, I can't imagine an adult doing this, but I didn't jump right to Charlie. And we didn't know that they'd broken up either. So that's the thing. We find out they've broken up, and she's jealous, and that's why she's vandalized the house.
Yeah.
That happens closer to the middle or end, I think. Because we've got a bunch of things.
The big cliffhanger at the end. So they've set up this tip line for $100,000 reward for any news that they can figure out about Steve. And of course, Nick is like, well, this is going to be stupid because you're going to get crazies coming out of the woodwork just making things up to get the money. But so the cliffhanger of this episode is Parker calling in and Nick answering and saying, hey, I know something about Steve. Which, as us as the audience,
assumed was, I figured we'd already seen her being a money grubber earlier and extorting Jen. I figured that was sort of where we were going with that. Here we do find out he's in the Greek mob for sure. We see the chief a bunch of more times. We know that Steve really doesn't have any of this money. We don't really know where the money has gone mostly at this point because we have we've seen the check, but she couldn't do anything with the check from last season where it was in the bird. And now Steve's family has to sell his house. And so we have that. And then you have the Flo, Michelle's mother, is in the ICU, and they did a big hospital scene with that.
And this was such a huge deal for Judy and the Detective Perez character, because they both obviously care for Michelle. You know, by this point, she has kind of told Michelle, look, I can't be with you, Judy has. But her and Perez, you know, both coming together at the hospital to, you know, show their support and love for Michelle and her mother, really bonded them in a way that I absolutely did not see coming. I mean, I figured kind of once they both showed up together, but this was the episode right after they had that big blow up on the beach. So I really was like, oh my God, like, you know, Judy's just digging herself in deeper yet again. But Judy being Judy, you know, decides to be nice and sort of take Detective Perez, you know, as a friend. And in that, Detective Perez has really started to come around to being such an interesting character, because she really straddles that line between, like, I want to be a good cop, but, you know, she's got her boss who's obviously, you know, a sexist jerk, and she doesn't quite know yet, but he's, you know, got the Greek mafia ties and all of that. And so these last few episodes of the season really showcase Detective Perez as a character, and not just, you know, I'm a cop, I'm out to get people. You know, she obviously has a lot of layers.
I think that I'm hoping that we see more development from her next season. I mean, we saw so much, but I'm hoping that with what we've seen happen in episode 10, that we're going to be able to see a little bit more from her, because it is good. This is going to continue. I mean, I don't see how they wouldn't have a season 3 as we go through these last 2 episodes. I wrote a note, Ben remembers kids. I'm not sure, is that remembering from when he was a kid, or is he, I don't know what I'm meaning here. Maybe
Ben remembers kids. Well, I don't know. I mean, this is the episode where he shows up with
8 for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that he shows up at Jen's house and says, look, I can't stop thinking about you, let's be together. I think this is when we find out about all the scars on his chest. So maybe he remembers being a kid and the multiple surgeries that he had. Is that this episode?
It might be. I don't know if maybe he did something nice for her kids. I don't remember if there was something. It must have been something that stood out to me. Either that he's nice, or that remembering him as a child.
Yeah.
Starting to see, okay, there's a lot to this guy. As it is, we didn't realize. I kind of forgot that he said earlier in the beginning, oh, I don't drink. Then we have the episode where he's drunk, and he's like, well, you know, kind of had some alcoholism issues here. So that was something that I was like, oh, yeah, it didn't really.
Right.
That was something that didn't register with me the first time. But that's about it for 8. I have, unless you had more on.
No, I have nothing else for 8. I mean, we do sort of, one thing that I loved about this episode that we didn't really touch on, when they were at the hospital, and it was just a very nice scene where Judy was looking at the babies, and then talking to the cuddlers about, you know, doing that, because Judy just is the best person, you know, and she gets into awful situations, but boy, you know, what a perfect job for somebody like her who just has so much love to give.
Until they say, oh, they'll do a background check on you.
Right, and then
it's just like a gut punch, because you know all of this stuff is going to come up. She's confessed to the hit and run. So yep. Even if she doesn't go down for any of that, that there's still there's a red flag.
And she was recently arrested for you know, what Jen did to the car.
Right.
when she destroyed the car. So, all right. So, episode 9, It's Not You, It's Me. This was what a bombshell when we go to the prison. You don't know who Judy's there to visit. It is her mom, and out steps the one and only, and we talk about her so frequently, Katie Seagal.
I love Katie Seagal. I have her name. I have Judy's mom in jail, question mark. Katie Seagal, exclamation points all the way. I mean, it's just perfect. I love her. I feel like she's just doing so much work right now.
She's so great on the Connors this season. And of course, you know, we've all loved her for back in the day. And I didn't put this together until right this second, but of course, the Married with Children connection with Christina Applegate.
Oh gosh, I don't even know why I didn't occur to me.
I didn't even think of it until now, but you know, obviously they are old friends from back in the day. So it's great that she's on there to play Judy's mom. But you know, that was an interesting scene because we had heard bits and pieces about Judy's upbringing. We knew that she had lived in a car with her mom. We knew certain things about her. Did we know that the mom was still alive? I don't remember.
No, I don't think we did. I think you kind of think, you just know she's sort of gone and that they don't have any kind of relationship. I think it turns out, they say 15 years it's been.
Yes, since she last saw her.
Been in jail for 15 years. It just, that's since they've, you know, seen each other and parted. And you just kind of watch the manipulation sort of, you know, it starts off where you think, you know, okay, is Judy, what's going to happen here? And you just watch Katie Seagal's character. I don't even know what her mother's name is now. You just watch her manipulate her, and you know, Judy will stick around for anybody, is what they've said, and she doesn't. And I think that was a huge turning point for Judy.
Yeah. Yeah, she's trying to get her to pay for a lawyer for her, and you know, trying to, when that doesn't work, she's like, oh, well, you know, maybe you can write a letter for me to, you know, to say that I have, you know, changed and all this. And Judy was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So does this come after then the huge standoff with Jen and Judy, where they are screaming at each other about really, you know, everything, the whole Ben thing, and does that happen after that?
I think I don't know.
Hard when you
jumping back and forth. I only have 5 bullet points here. So we've got the mom in jail is definitely towards the beginning. I wrote something about Judy's going to tell the self-defense story. I don't know if I know what I meant by that. Judy sticks around for anybody. And then at the very end, I thought she was turning the murder weapon in. I thought she was going to turn in. I'm not even sure if that, I guess.
Okay. No. Here's what happened.
Okay.
She went to the jail in the first part. Like you said, it's like one of the opening scenes.
Yes.
Then they have that huge fight.
Okay.
And then she goes back to jail and then tells her mom no.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's not like it went back and forth. She goes back to the jail. Got it.
That scene where the two of them are screaming at each other and saying horrible, horrible things. You know, Judy or Jen talking about how, you know, I hate myself. My kids hate me. Everybody hates me. And Judy's like, I don't hate you. And Jen just snaps right back that, you know, that's because you just love anybody that gives you any attention, and and then, you know, Judy gets in the car and Jen won't let her leave. And I mean, it was.
Oh, right. Yep.
Woo! I think
that's why Judy's able to say no, is she's like, oh yeah, I am just giving people, like, anybody giving me, even if it's not even real love. Her mother is clearly manipulating her, and she's thinking about doing some of these things. And when Jen puts up this mirror and says, this is what's really happening here, I think that's when she realizes, oh.
Same with Steve.
Yep, absolutely.
So, so that was this episode. And then the end of the episode, Jen feels absolutely horrible for the things she said to Judy. She is beside herself. She decides, you know what? No, F this. I'm out. I'm going to turn myself in. I need to make amends for the things I have done, you know, in my life. This, that, and the other thing. So she writes these letters that she leaves for Judy, one for Judy and one for the two kids. And then the big cliffhanger is she shows up at Detective Perez's place and, you know, says, I killed Steve.
I thought for sure she was bringing that bird with her to do that and to be like, here's the murder weapon. But she puts it in the safe and said, I thought that's what I meant here was what I thought she was going to be like, here's the evidence. This is how he died. I am the murderer.
Right.
I was kind of surprised she didn't do that actually. But whatever, it doesn't change the outcome any. And the interesting thing is she goes to Detective Perez to the house. She does not go to the police station. So
right. She goes specifically to Detective Perez, which I thought was very interesting. Yeah, you're right. And so episode 10, the season finale starts off, it's called Where Do We Go From Here? It starts off at Detective Perez's place with that whole exchange, like, how do you even know where I live, and this and that. And then she says, oh, I dropped Judy off here once when she was seeing Michelle, and Detective Perez just starts bawling, breaking down.
And we find out that Michelle has moved out.
Right.
And we know as the audience, Detective Perez is still in love with Michelle. She would like to be in that relationship. And, you know, the fact that it's Judy who she had decided to, you know, have anything with, she just cannot stand Judy. Even before all of that, it's just like, are you really kidding me? It's this is, out of all the people it could be, it's her. I felt like I was watching Arrested Development.
Arrested.
She?
Egg? But at the same time, in the last couple episodes, because we've seen so much with the Greek mafia and all that stuff, you know, Detective Perez at this point in time is really like, I think has seen the good in Judy as a person. She might not like her. She might hate that Michelle fell for her, but she has kind of seen Judy's good side in, you know, multiple ways. So I think she's sort of coming around to that. So this episode, the first sort of half is her and Jen, you know, going to the crime scene. Jen says, I'm going to show you the body. And They go to the woods. They can't figure out where it is. They can't find it. So on the way back, Perez basically says, look, I want to be a person and not a cop right now. Here's what I should do.
Such a great line from her. I thought she just showed so much like humanity there, and she seemed like the wall had been chipped away, and I loved it. I loved the way she delivered that line. The only thing I didn't love was I thought the green screen in that car was a little too obvious.
Oh, wasn't it terrible?
I said rough green screen, because usually they're not that bad. I was just like, okay, this is really not. No, this is obvious.
They spent all their money in the budget to burn an expensive car, I guess. I don't know, but yes, that green screen was rough. I agree. But the words that were coming out were great. It was a very nice.
Full circle right after that to the grief group, and I think at that point I was like, oh, this show is ending. That's it, because we don't know where she's going with that line. She just we just see that okay, I'm gonna be a person, and we don't know what that exactly means. And I
had to pause. I paused because I was like, I feel like this has definitely not been a half hour. So I paused, and it's like there was still like 11 or 12 minutes left. I was like, okay, right. I forgot that there's probably is going to be a third season, so I should expect that something big is going to happen here before the end. So so we see all of that. But this is what I was talking about earlier with the whole, like, some of the tropes that we see a lot of times in TV shows where it's like soap opera-esque. Like Judy is about to reveal to the kids that, oh, listen, your mom has put me in charge. She's turned herself in, da 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 da. And 2 seconds from her telling them, Jen walks right in the house. Oh, I'm here. That kind of stuff kept sort of permeating off and on, just sort of sprinkled throughout the season.
Yeah,
but that was a little bit annoying.
Yeah, that one was a little cringy. We're like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked that she got to read the letter and we knew what the letter said.
Yeah.
And then
but I don't know that they needed to build that part up so just hokey and dramatic.
Again, I think they know. I'm hoping at least that they know that we know it's not going to happen. And that it's just everybody knows, like everyone's in on the joke. I'm hoping
right, I guess.
If they haven't written it that way, yeah, then I'm disappointed. I'm hoping it's you're all TV watchers. You know it's going to come at the last minute.
I guess. It might be nice to just mix it up a little bit with that kind of thing. Because they kept doing that this season. And I don't remember that happening in season 1, like, ever.
I don't remember. I remember great one-liners. I remember great comments, like dialogue, and not so much of the situational, like, oh, gotcha.
Right. Yes, they seem to want to do like a bunch of gotcha. Yes, that's a great word for it. They seem to try to go hard with the gotcha, but it was things we've seen in 100 shows, dating back to, who knows, Columbo probably, and all of those. So then we move on from there. Her and Judy make nice. They make up. Perez brings Judy the paintings, which I thought was so nice. Such a nice touch.
Did you
and
guess
then what?
The twist there or not?
No clue.
I called it right away. They show up and I said, oh my gosh, the money's in the paintings.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not a dumb person, but I sort of I try not to predict what's going to happen. I just kind of go with the flow. And there's certain things that, sure, are very obvious. But I just thought, and maybe I'm naive, I don't know. Maybe I am dumb. But when I
reading too many, like all I read as a kid was mysteries. And
okay.
the whole time you're like, they're written in a way where you're supposed to be like,
looking for the clues.
Are you looking for the clues?
Right.
And so I'm always looking for the clues and trying to solve it. And they do the same thing with the police procedurals. They're written the same way.
Right.
I watch a bunch of those. So I think, unfortunately, I've watched it through that lens.
I don't watch any of those because they're all the same episode for 300 episodes. So I never watched them. So I did read Encyclopedia Brown. You know that. I love him. And I watch like Scooby-Doo and stuff. But I mean, yeah, I get really sort of wrapped up in a mystery because I don't try to look too much into it. I just kind of go with it.
It's probably better. You're way more. You get the like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I get like vindication of being smart, which I like to be smart. So whatever. Maybe that's my thing.
That's fair.
I will say that I was happy with that.
Didn't you think, even though, all the money was stuck in the paintings and she was, sort of destroying the backs to get them out, I really loved the line where she said, oh, I can get this reframed. Because it meant that the paintings themselves did still mean something to her. It wasn't just, let me get all this money. Her paintings really did mean.
These are valuable, and I never, throughout the whole thing, it didn't occur to me about the money until they gave them to her, and she said, oh, I know a lot to you. And then it clicked for me. It was all the rest of the time, I thought it was all the altruistic, this is my art, this is my pain, these are who I am for her. I didn't think there was going to be a dual thing. So no, I love that line. It was so
I thought that was great. All right, so tell us about the big cliffhanger. How does season 2 resolve and leave us hanging and wanting more?
So we've gone to buy Lorna out of the house with all of this money, which I love that little dig at the end there. Hey, we're gonna and we're in the car, and we throughout this season and last season we have seen Jen be like, hey, people need to slow down. They need to, she's yelling at people. We're beating cars.
Great, yeah.
All of these. We didn't talk about this at all.
By the way, I forget what episode. It was late though. It was maybe episode 8 or 9, but there was this big stop sign petition that didn't go through, and she went to a city council meeting. Yeah, we didn't get to talk about it. And God, that was a great scene when that jag who tried to rape her last season was on the board and was like, well, maybe with about her husband, and she was like, yeah, I should have hit you harder and explained to everybody what happened. Oh my God.
When she nailed him, I was like, you go. That is what everybody needed to hear. Just out them all. I don't care.
Yep, that was so great. So yes, she's been wanting this stop sign, and finally, she decides to buy Charlie a real car and all of this.
And there's the stop sign. We're stopped at the stop sign. We're all, oh my gosh, look what you've done. Again, we all are still thinking this could be the end of the season. Like, you could end on this lovely note.
Right.
And all of a sudden they pull out, and it's a little unclear who really has the right of way here, because they're at a stop sign and they pull out. And I don't think he had a stop sign, but a car plows right into him. And who is it but Ben? And he's been drinking.
Yep. And we see the bottle, and then he leaves.
And then he leaves. It's another hit and run. What is wrong with these people?
Amazing. So the season ends, this brand new car for Charlie. Finally, we have something good. We have all this money. We made the house our own. We bought it out, Lorna, X, Y, and Z. And then all of a sudden, we have another mystery, another hit and run. I don't know. I sort of thought that they both had stop signs and he just didn't stop. That's what I thought.
I couldn't tell because she was so into wanting the one stop sign.
Right.
I was kind of, I just had it was kind of unclear on what the actual traffic pattern was. Right. We at our house, because both of us, we both kind of realized they were going to get hit. I think because we've watched a lot of shows where that's happened.
Yeah. That one I knew. That one was a guarantee for me.
Okay, good. However, one of the things that my husband brought up was, he doesn't even know that was them in the car. It's a new car. This is a car he doesn't recognize. He is just, oh my gosh, I've been drinking and I've hit some people and that's it. And we don't even know. And I mean, I'm going to assume she's okay because I don't think we hear her respond because Judy's like, saying, Jen, are you okay? I don't know if we hear her say something.
At the very end, I think she said, like, what happened or something. Yeah. And then Judy says, we've been hit or something. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. But for a second, you're like, oh my gosh, are they even alive? Is Jenny?
Right.
Because we hear Judy talk right away.
So that's where we end. And oh my God, here we go again. And I agree, they could have. Netflix is notorious for only having 3 seasons or so. So maybe next season will be the end. I don't know. But
and I would be okay with that if they wrap it up in a way that's appropriate. There's shows that are we just watched the last episode last night of How to Get Away with Murder, and some people, I not me necessarily, but some people weren't necessarily pleased with it. So I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do it, and there's the drag it out too many seasons. I mean, and
I think that is one good thing about Netflix sort of ending things with people wanting more is that unlike a lot of big network shows that go on 9, 10, 11 years, they aren't overstaying their welcome.
I think Showtime really has a tough time. I mean, I think both Weeds and Shameless have both suffer from that particular, they're just so popular and they're so good, but they run out of places to go. This show can only go so many places. I do not see this being a 10, 11 season show.
Right, and I don't want it to be. So, all right, well, we've run off at the mouth as always, but before we go, yes, but before we go, let's talk about what we want to see maybe in season 3. We've already mentioned, a little of that. But also, of course, we have to grade season 2. So let's, in season 3, I think you've mentioned that you want to see more of Detective Perez, her background, where she fits in. I would love to see her be an ally to Jen and Judy both.
I want it because now I'm hoping they're going to investigate the Ben crash.
Right.
And I'm hoping they don't find out necessarily right away, because that would, I think, be boring.
Yes.
And I would love to see her on the side of the women this time, now that we've seen that she can be. And I think that's going to be the way that it's going to be most interesting.
Well, and this time
Francis Conroy doing something on the Ben side of things, maybe a little shadiness.
I would love
to see her come back, because she just does that creepy so well.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, they are truly 100% the victims for once. So I would love to see, Perez and Nick, sort of go after.
Well, they're the victims as long as he also had a stop sign. If they pulled out in front of him,
I guess that's true.
It is still the hit and run issue. And
I was going to say, still hit and run either way. But yeah, and what else? I mean, the kids, Charlie at this point is almost done with high school, so that might be interesting to, to give him a little bit. I mean, I think these kids, like you said, are great actors. I would love to see them get even, bigger roles in the upcoming season.
They may have to, do a little bit of beginning of this season without the kids and do a jump in time.
Because they've grown. You're right.
To make this be a little bit more plausible.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's out of the realm necessarily if we do a run that we're investigating.
I know you're a Weeds fan as well. We mention Weeds all the time in relation to this show, but they had to do that one time jump the season she got pregnant on the show. They specifically made that a time jump season where she had the baby by the end of it, because Shane was just growing by the week, and we're supposed to have 4 seasons or whatever within like the span of a month or whatever, and he's so clearly older than he was in season 1. So yeah, they may have to play a little bit. You're right, I guess, with that. But Charlie,
I don't need a growing pains situation where you've got the baby in one season and the 6-year-old,
5-year-old. Yeah, so, that's too much. But all right. So overall, I think this was probably about as good as season 1. My thoughts are, season 1 had that really, that one episode was just all filler. Here we did have the away episode where they were at the bar.
That. I thought this was funny,
but I liked it.
I liked this. I thought this was a lot funnier. I think they did it a little shorter. I thought it was a little more plausible, even, because I still wasn't all convinced that Jen ever would have gone on that stupid retreat.
Yep. So, I totally agree. I don't think if you're going to have a shoehorned in episode, this one was far better than the season 1 that they did. My only real complaint about this season is sort of the more, I guess, hokey elements, maybe you could say. And
is it just because they're huge television watchers and can see it all? Is this not going to be a problem for other people? We watch a lot of TV.
I do watch a lot of TV, but also, this has been something that they've been doing, that whole thing where she was about to tell him, and then Jen comes. That was just like, we've seen that. Even if I didn't watch that much TV, I still would have seen it 50 times by now.
The one thing we didn't bring up is that we do have one of the kids, and I can't remember which one, finding, I think it's Henry, finding the envelope under the bed. Or maybe it was, no, it was Charlie.
I think it's Charlie.
He finds the weed.
You're right.
And I would love to see more with that. I want to know what is going on with that. And I
Right.
think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I definitely forgot about that too. So yeah,
what
that's
did
another
we
cliffhanger.
grade the last one? Did we grade it an A? I can't remember.
I think it was an A, and honestly, I think this season's an A too.
Yeah,
I thought the cliffhangers
A
were
plus, but again, I don't know if I'd go that far, but
yeah,
definitely.
I don't think I'd go quite that high, but the cliffhangers, I think, at the end of each episode were almost better in this one than in the first one.
I think they're more consistent and believable.
Keeping the web of plot lines coherent and interesting, and even though they have their sort of gotcha moments that are a little cliche, the plots themselves don't necessarily lend themselves to that. So I love that.
And I think they did it without introducing too many new characters. That is one of the things that I think some of the other shows sometimes suffer from.
Yeah.
Again, Weeds is another one that's sort of like that, where you've got new people every season. We do have new people, but they're all people that make sense to be there.
Right.
Only people who were sort of superfluous were the Michelle Flo thing. Flo didn't do very much. She was just the in to where's this Michelle person coming from. But I think we needed to see some kind of new romantic interest for Judy, because Steve's out of the picture. It would be too creepy for it to be Ben. I do like that we had sort of a romantic thing with the Jen Ben situation. Oh gosh, their names rhyme. I didn't even realize that.
They sure do. But also I think we needed Michelle as a conduit to get to Perez and Judy sort of having an understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, you know me, I keep complaining about the, little town, and Pastor Wayne is there every 5 minutes and it's the one chick. But I also feel like I don't have to learn a million different, people. It's concise and compact and doable.
Yeah. So I totally think this is another A season. This remains one of TV's strongest shows for me. I was very, very happy with this season.
I agree. A for me. I'm there for season 3. I'm sad I have to wait now.
I know. And yeah, I know. Now, thanks. Now that I've binged, I have to wait a whole year for this stupid season 3.
Yeah, but at least you didn't get confused every episode. Every time I stop watching something, I have to watch all the recaps and like, wait, what happened in the last episode? So now I'll just have to rewatch the podcast, and that's only going to be.
You're not wrong. When I do that, especially if it's a serialized show like this, I do sometimes need to think okay, who was this or what happened? And yeah, I love the recaps and stuff. So you're right. At least I had it that way. But all right, well, thank you so much for joining, Melissa. It's always a pleasure to have you on the channel.
Thank you so much.
Yep, and we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.